The House will come to order. And if our members and guests could please find your respective seats, we would appreciate that.
Mr. Speaker.
The chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
I have the honor to announce the arrival of the members of the Senate of the state of Minnesota.
Members, please rise as we welcome the members of the Minnesota State Senate to the House chamber. The joint convention will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
It's a privilege and an honor for me to be able to stand before you and to join with you in seeking divine help for the great state of Minnesota. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we're coming to you in need of your help to lead our great state of Minnesota, whose destiny you've placed within our hands. And we're asking for your divine guidance for our leader, Governor Mark Dayton, and for each legislature that's here tonight, because they desire your wisdom in the decisions they're facing. And you promise that if we seek, we will find. And God, thank you for hearing our prayer. Amen.
Members and guests, our chaplain for today is the Reverend Phil Shaw, the Senate chaplain. You may be seated. The secretary will call the roll.
Bach, Senator Bach. Senator Benson. Senator Bonoff. Senator Brown. Senator Carlson.
Dispensed with.
I recognize Senator Senjum.
Mr. President, I would move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with.
Senator Sinja moves that further proceedings of the roll call be dispensed with. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails. A quorum is present. The chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
I have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Lori Shervin Gilday, Chief Justice, and the Honorable Members of the Supreme Court, and the Honorable Matthew E. Johnson, Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals.
Members, will you please rise? The Sergeant at Arms will escort the Chief Justice, the members of the Supreme Court, and the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals to the front of the chamber. You may be seated.
Mr. President,
The chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
I have the honor to announce the arrival of the constitutional officers of the state of Minnesota, the Honorable Mark Ritchie, Secretary of State, the Honorable Rebecca Otto, State Auditor, the Honorable Lori Swanson, Attorney General.
Will you please rise as the Sergeant at Arms escorts the constitutional officers to the front of the chamber?
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
I have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Wendell R. Anderson, former Governor of the state of Minnesota.
Will you please remain standing as the Sergeant at Arms escorts former Governor to the front of the chamber?
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
I have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Walter F. Mondale, 42nd Vice President of the United States of America.
Members, please remain standing as the Sergeant at Arms escorts the Vice President of the United States to the front of the chamber.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
I have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Yvonne Pretner Solon, Lieutenant Governor of the state of Minnesota.
Members, please remain standing as the Sergeant at Arms escorts the Lieutenant Governor to the front of the chamber.
Mr. President,
Chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
I have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Mark Dayton, Governor of the State of Minnesota, and his official party.
Members, please remain standing as the Sergeant at Arms escorts the Governor of the great state of Minnesota to the front of the chamber. Members and guests, you may be seated. Members of the Joint Convention and guests, I present to you the Governor of the great state of Minnesota, the Honorable Mark Dayton.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, members of the Minnesota House of Representatives, Madam President, members of the Minnesota Senate, Madam Chief Justice, and distinguished members of the Minnesota Supreme Court, my fellow constitutional officers, members of my staff and cabinet, Vice President Mondale, Governor Anderson, other distinguished guests, family and friends, my fellow Minnesotans. My father, Bruce Dayton, is 93 years old. Most Sundays we have lunch together at his home in Long Lake, where I grew up. 62 years ago, my father bought 40 acres of mostly woods and a cornfield for $6,000. He and my mother built a house there, and we moved into it when I was 5 years old. Over the years, my father acquired 130 more acres. He was the first person in Minnesota to restore his fields to their original prairie grass and flowers, and he has now donated his property to the people of Minnesota, which the DNR will preserve as one of the few remaining old-growth forests in our state. Last October, as we surveyed the beautiful fall colors on trees bordering his field of prairie grass, I said to him, "You know, Dad, you have been a very good steward of this land. It is in so much better condition than it was when you bought it." I often wonder how our children and grandchildren will judge our stewardship. Will they thank us for leaving our state, nation, and world in better condition than when we had inherited it? Or will they ask, how could you have left us with this mess? The answer is for us to decide. I am hopeful because I believe in Minnesota. I believe in Minnesotans. And fortunately, our state is now showing signs of a long-awaited and much-needed economic recovery. Even better, Minnesota has regained its accustomed position, leading most of other states' economic growth after lagging behind for much of the decade. Minnesota's latest unemployment rate in December 2011 was 5.7%, which is a record 2.8% below the national average. While the country has regained, yes, all right. Yeah. While the country has regained less than half of the jobs lost during the Great Recession, Minnesota has regained all of its lost employment. The number of employed Minnesotans today is at an all-time high. And Minnesota's percent increase in total wages during 2011 was almost 5 times greater than the rest of the country. Now, the 2012 State Business Tax Climate Index ranked Minnesota only 45th among the states. The top 5 were Wyoming, South Dakota, Nevada, Alaska, and Florida. All except for Alaska are right-to-work states. Last month, however, Minnesota's unemployment rate was lower than 4 of those 5 states. During the past 2 years, our growth in average hourly earnings equaled the best and beat the rest. Our per capita income was second highest. We're doing something right. In fact, we're doing a lot right. Yet even though 97,000 more Minnesotans are working today than at the depth of the Great Recession, there's still more than 168,000 Minnesotans who want to work but cannot find employment. They must be our number one priority. So I say to legislators, let's take your best ideas and my best ideas and turn them into jobs, and let's do it now. I've already sent you 3 major jobs initiatives. My proposed bonding bill would repair buildings and upgrade classroom equipment at our state colleges and universities. It would improve our state parks. It would help finance downtown revitalization projects in several major cities. 5 of the outstanding mayors of those cities are with us tonight. In alphabetical order, Mayor Eric Anderson of Mankato, Mayor Ardell Brady from Rochester, St. Paul Mayor Chris Coleman, Mayor Dave Kleiss of St. Cloud, and Minneapolis Mayor R.T. Ryback. They're up at the balcony. Let's recognize 5 outstanding mayors. My father and my uncles taught me the importance of continuously improving the downtowns of our major cities. They are the economic hearts of entire regions. If the heart weakens, the rest of the body suffers. 1/3 of all Minneapolis property taxes are paid by downtown enterprises. That keeps property taxes lower for everyone else in the city. Every year, the city of Rochester and Olmsted County send almost $90 million more to the state treasury in taxes than they receive back in LGA, school aid, and other assistance. Why wouldn't we want to help make these cities and other key cities as successful as possible? One national study estimates that my bonding bill would create 21,700 jobs, most of them in the private sector. If you're skeptical, divide by 2. That's still more than 10,000 Minnesotans now unemployed who could be working all over our state. Legislators, you are obviously entitled to your own preferred projects. I ask, however, that you develop your priorities quickly and pass a bonding bill in the next month. The sooner you act, the sooner several thousand unemployed Minnesotans will be doing the work that those repairs and renovations require. Pass the bonding bill now, please. I've also proposed building a new People's Stadium, which would provide private sector jobs for several thousand more Minnesotans. I'm amazed that some people feel no urgency to put several thousand more Minnesotans back to work. The legislative authors, Senator Rosen and Representative Lanning, along with Chairman Ted Mondale, have been terrific partners in this undertaking. They may be getting close to a site, a deal, and a bill. Then it will be up to you in the legislature. Some of you reportedly want to avoid voting on a stadium until after next fall's elections. That would be terribly unfair to the several thousand unemployed Minnesotans who could be working on that project this year, and to the Vikings. Pass the stadium bill this session, please. My third jobs proposal is a Jobs Now tax credit to encourage businesses to hire unemployed Minnesotans, veterans, and recent college graduates. It would reduce taxes for participating businesses while putting still more of our citizens to work. Last week, the Minnesota National Guard's Adjutant General, Richard Nash, reported that over the 3,000 Minnesota Guardsmen and women presently serving in Kuwait, 22% of them will be unemployed when they return home. After all of them served our country heroically, 22% of them won't have jobs when they come back. That is shameful. That is why, in addition to my Jobs Now tax credit, I've also proposed expanding the Minnesota GI Bill to provide education benefits to all eras of veterans, because unemployment among all Minnesota veterans may be as high as twice the state average. Sitting upstairs are two Minnesota veterans. Mr. Stephen Jackson served the United States Army for 15 years in places like Iraq. Mr. Jack Marshall served for 6 years in the Air Force and did a tour in Kuwait. Mr. Jackson, Mr. Marshall, thank you. These two heroes served our state and nation with great patriotism, valor, and honor. Now they can't find jobs. That is wrong. So pass a Jobs Now bill and expand the Minnesota GI Bill, please. One area in which the legislature and my administration have worked well together is government reform. I look forward to continuing our bipartisan collaboration in streamlining permitting processes further, reducing the costs of public services, and making them more cost-effective. We've already made real progress. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the Department of Natural Resources now complete 99% of their priority permit reviews within 150 days. We can make it still faster, and we will. It is already paying off, however. Recently, an energy consultant asked the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency about air permitting for a potential new business. MBCA staff walked him through the general timelines and process. Staff also offered to meet with the company in advance to help improve the proposal and provided a pre-application checklist. This consultant said he helps businesses in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, South Carolina, and California. He had never heard of another state providing this kind of service. And our 150-day turnaround seems shorter than other states. I also received a note from a businessman whose wood products company employs 140 people in northern Minnesota. Last year, his company invested about $4 million to improve its Minnesota facility, with the possibility of another $5 million this year. He said, quote, "None of this would have been possible without the cooperation of Commissioner Ossen and his department." Commissioner Phillips of Deed, his business First Stop, is another step in the right direction. It is a one-stop shop where new and expanding businesses can make one call and get whatever help they need. Under the expert tutelage of companies like General Mills, state agencies are implementing lean practices of continuous improvement, which are saving taxpayers money and improving services. Commissioner Kronk and his Department of Administration saved $3 million in 6 months by revamping contracts with suppliers. The Department of Revenue, under Commissioner Franz's leadership, saved $1 million by implementing electronic check processing and greatly reduced the turnaround time for tax refunds. At the Department of Agriculture, Commissioner Frederickson and Supervisor Harley Olinsky saved taxpayers $300,000 a year while also shortening the time for most grain and produce license renewals to less than 30 days. Mr. Olinsky epitomizes the dedicated state employees who work hard every day and get little credit. He deserves some tonight. Thank you, Harry Olinsky. Finally, Commissioner Parnell and her team are working hard to implement the legislature's decision last year to consolidate the state's many IT functions. Anything that gets Representative Kahn and Downey hugging on the House floor deserves a lasting legacy, and this will have one. The key to our future, as we all know, is education. As President Obama says, we can't out-compete other countries if we don't out-educate them. That means we must develop the best educational systems in the world. Despite our other difficulties last session, we agreed upon many significant education innovations. We enacted an alternative licensure path for teachers. We expanded early childhood education, and our doing so was crucial to Minnesota's winning the federal Race to the Top competition against 34 other states. We established evaluation requirements for both teachers and principals. We increased the per-pupil aid formula by $50 per student in each year of the biennium, the first real increase since 2003. We enacted Read by third grade, which will be a priceless gift to the children of Minnesota and their parents from a wonderful legislative leader. In fact, 2 outstanding leaders of improving the quality of education in Minnesota are retiring after this year, Senator Jen Olson and Representative Mindy Greiling. Let's pay tribute to them now. And I want to pay tribute to another real Minnesota hero of mine, Senator Gary Kubley. Great to have you here, Senator. We accomplished a great deal last year by working together. The U.S. Department of Education's approval of our No Child Left Behind waiver, along with our aforementioned Race to the Top success, is testimony to their confidence in the positive direction of Minnesota's education innovation. That tremendous progress is a tribute to the excellent leadership of Commissioner Cassellius and legislators of both parties. Our challenge this year is to put all of it to work for the school children, parents, teachers, and administrators throughout Minnesota. Already, however, some legislators are advancing even more new proposals. So I have a novel idea. Let's develop any education initiatives this year in cooperation with teachers rather than in conflict with them. The best education for all Minnesota students should not be a political ploy, and I will not support anything that is. We face similar challenges to improve our colleges and universities throughout Minnesota. Unfortunately, unlike K-12 education, where we increased funding last session, the University of Minnesota and Minsk reached cut by almost 15%. The two new heads of these invaluable institutions are here tonight. Dr. Eric Kaler, who is the 16th president of the University of Minnesota. President Kaler. Thank you. Dr. Stephen Rosenstone is the fourth Chancellor of the Minnesota State Colleges and University System. Chancellor Rosenstone. Don't sit down, because they're joined tonight by the new Director of the Office of Higher Education, former Senator Larry Polgamiller. Director Polgamiller. The three of them, together with you legislators and other higher education leaders, have the enormous responsibility to retool Minnesota's colleges and universities and give their students the crucial advantages needed to succeed in this highly competitive global economy. We're told that by the year 2018, 70% of Minnesota's jobs will require some kind of post-secondary degree. That's just the beginning, however, not the end. Our post-secondary students need more than degrees. They need the world's best educations so they can thrive in that world. And Minnesota will not thrive unless they do. Chancellor Rosenstone and President Kaler need our support to make all of their campuses excellent. Their curricula and classrooms must be world-class and state-of-the-art. They must prepare their students for the jobs of the future, not the past. It's already happening in many classrooms on U of M and Minsk campuses. Mr. Ron Olseth is an instructor at Itasca Community College. He developed a program called Iron Range Engineering, a hands-on learning experience where students do real engineering work for Minnesota companies. It's so successful that the engineering department at Stanford University invited him there to teach their faculty about the benefits of his new model. When Iron Range Engineering meets Silicon Valley, well, Ron, I just hope you have a share of the royalties. Great work, Ron Olseth. Antoinette McCarthy is another wonderful success story. She said, quote, "I had tried college before, but I wasn't as successful as I had hoped. As a result, she struggled to find a decent paying job and a career with a future. Now Antoinette is poised for success. She just completed a fast-track program at Inver Hills Community College, receiving her certificate as a nursing assistant. Her hard work means that certificate means that she will earn on average nearly double what someone would at a minimum wage medical job. Congratulations, Antoinette McCarthy." We need fast track on every campus in Minnesota. We need state and federal job training and workforce development monies to be better coordinated with higher education funding and programs so that all of our students come out of their educational systems skilled and ready to succeed. The success of our state depends upon it. Another prerequisite for our children's and grandchildren's future success is for us to restore fiscal responsibility to the Minnesota government. Last year, legislators who voted for the final budget bills and I increase borrowing from our schools by $750 million, and borrowing from our future by another $750 million. $1.5 billion in additional debt should put our so-called $876 billion surplus in its proper perspective. If my final tax proposal to raise income taxes on only the wealthiest 2% of Minnesotans had been accepted, not only would this biennium's budget have been balanced and that $1.5 billion of additional borrowing unnecessary, but also the current budget forecast for the next biennium would show a surplus rather than a $1.3 billion deficit. Now, in fairness, I acknowledge that many of you in the legislature wanted to balance the budget by reducing spending. Next November, Minnesotans will decide which of our approaches they prefer. Until then, let us resolve that we will conduct this session's financial affairs responsibly. No more borrowing. As stewards of the public trust, I ask us to leave one final legacy to future generations of Minnesotans. Our wonderful state capitol building is wearing down and falling apart. We can either wait until someone is seriously injured or even worse, when the public outcry will compel our action, or we can act now. I'm asking you legislators to make the most unselfish vote of your careers, to kick yourselves and me and everyone else out of the Capitol as needed for the 4 years or so necessary to renovate this building and to make it both functional and safe for the next 100 years. It'll be hard on all of us, but so much better for those who follow us. And that is the essence of selfless stewardship. And it epitomizes the kind of legacy for which our children and grandchildren will be grateful. When this magnificent Capitol opened in 1905, Minnesota was a very different state, and not nearly as successful. Our citizens' per capita income was below the rest of the country's, and it dropped to only 85% of the national average by 1920. There it floundered for the next 25 years, before beginning a gradual climb to parity with the rest of the country in the 1960s, rising above the national average in the 1970s, and continuing to improve thereafter. So how did Minnesota become above average and even better? The president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis recently noted, as have others, that the number of educated people in our state's labor force is higher than the nation. Therefore, their productivity and their work quality are better. MinPost Lewis Johnson attributes our success to high rates of labor force participation, especially by women, our greater investments in human capital, such as education and health care, and both public sector and private sector investments in physical capital. So as we strive to improve our state for ourselves and for our descendants, let us not forget what has lifted us from below average to above average to outstanding. Let's not destroy good wages and benefits, damage our schools, colleges, and universities, or curtail our capital investments in search of another strategy of unproven value, or one of proven less value. Minnesota is a remarkable state. Our people, our businesses, our farms, our nonprofits, and our governments have worked well together to achieve a standard of living and quality of life which surpass most. Both DFL and Republican governors and legislators have contributed to that success. Let us please build upon what has been done before us, not tear it down. Minnesotans want more efficient government. They want better services. And they want us to cooperate and compromise in order to deliver them. I stand ready to work with legislators on both sides of the aisle to enact laws that will better Minnesota. They will be the bills which have involved members of my administration and legislators from both parties in their development. Those bills I will support. I'm not interested in highly partisan extreme measures which are intended for campaign literature rather than law. Those bills I will not support. President John F. Kennedy, in his book Profiles in Courage, wrote the following: "It is compromise that prevents each set of reformers from crushing the group on the other side of the political spectrum. The fanatics and extremists are always disappointed at the failure of their government to rush to implement all of their principles and to denounce those of their opponents. But the legislator knows there are few, if any, issues where all the truth and all the right and all the angels are on just one side. If we cooperate, if we share our best ideas, if we exchange our rigid ideologies for our shared ideals, we will revitalize our state, and we will be doing the jobs that the people of Minnesota sent us here to do. Only by working together can we achieve a lasting legacy in which we and they can take deserved pride. May God bless the United States of America and the state of Minnesota. Thank you very much.
Members and guests, you may be seated. I call on the Majority Leader of the Senate, Representative Senjum.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the joint convention do now adjourn.
Senator Senjum moves that the joint convention do now adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The joint convention is adjourned. Call the House to order. I call on the member from Dakota, Representative Dean.
I move the House do now adjourn.
Representative Dean moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. No. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 3 p.m. Thursday, February 16, 2012.